Let me tell you something today that might change how you see love forever. The moment you truly understand men emotionally, you stop chasing love. You stop begging for attention. You stop overthinking every text, every silence, every delay. You finally find peace within yourself. Most women chase love because they are searching for reassurance, security, and emotional safety. But here's the truth: the right man never makes you chase him. When a man is emotionally invested, you won't have to guess. You won't have to decode his words. You won't have to wait in confusion. His actions will speak clearly. Men express emotions differently. They may not always use words, but they show their feelings through consistency, effort, protection, and presence. When a man truly cares, he finds time, no matter how busy he is. He makes you a priority, not an option. He doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. Many women mistake attention for love. A man can text you all day and still not be emotionally available. Real love shows up when it's uncomfortable, when it's hard, when commitment is required. Emotional understanding teaches you to observe patterns, not promises. When you understand men emotionally, you stop trying to prove your worth. You realize that love is not something you earn. It is something that flows naturally when two people are aligned. You don't chase love. You attract it by being confident, peaceful, and emotionally strong. A woman who understands emotional dynamics knows when to step back. She knows when silence speaks louder than words. She knows that self-respect is more attractive than desperation. She values herself so deeply that she refuses to settle for confusion, inconsistency, or emotional neglect. The moment you stop chasing, you shift the power. You allow love to meet you where you stand. And that's when the right man steps forward, not because you begged, not because you waited, but because he saw your worth without needing to be convinced. Understand men emotionally, and you will never chase love again. You will choose it. You will welcome it. And you will only accept what aligns with your peace. When it comes to understanding men emotionally, one of the most important things you need to grasp is that consistency is the ultimate proof of commitment. Words are easy. Any man can say, "I love you," "I care about you," or "I'm here for you." But words without action, they're meaningless. True emotional investment shows itself through behavior over time. It's in the small details, the everyday choices, the moments when life gets busy and he still makes you feel seen and valued. Consistency isn't flashy. It doesn't come with grand gestures every day, but it is steady. It is reliable. It is the backbone of trust. When a man is consistent, you don't have to wonder where you stand. You don't have to question if he's being sincere. Every day, he shows you that you matter through his actions, not just his promises. Think about it. A man who truly loves you emotionally will make the effort to communicate, not because he has to, but because he genuinely wants to. He will call or text to check in, not sporadically, not only when it's convenient, but consistently. He will show up for plans and commitments. He won't cancel repeatedly or leave you waiting without explanation. Consistency is not perfection, but it is persistence. It is the repeated demonstration of care, respect, and effort. Emotional commitment is measured not by how loudly someone professes love, but by how reliably they follow through when life gets complicated. This is something many women overlook because they get distracted by charm words or short bursts of affection. They confuse attention with emotional presence. A man who is consistent will not leave you guessing, doubting, or desperate for signs. His behavior creates security, a sense of stability, and peace in the relationship. Consistency also shows emotional maturity. Men who are emotionally aware understand that relationships require patience, effort, and responsibility. They don't disappear when challenges arise. They don't withhold affection as punishment or play games to test your love. They maintain their commitment because they recognize that love is not just about feelings. It's about actions that build trust and reliability. When a man is consistent, he demonstrates respect for your time, your emotions, and your life. He prioritizes your needs alongside his own, That's emotional commitment in its purest form. It's not about saying, I love you, once a day or making grand romantic gestures. It's about showing up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not glamorous, because he genuinely values the connection and the person he has chosen. Many women chase love because they mistake inconsistencies for challenges that can be fixed with more effort, attention, or emotional labor. They believe that if they just try harder, text more, or accommodate every mood, they can secure someone's love. But the truth is, you can't manufacture consistency in someone who isn't ready to give it. Emotional commitment cannot be faked over time. A man who is emotionally invested will demonstrate it through repeated actions. He will be reliable in small things and large, from remembering important dates to showing up in moments that matter. These consistent behaviors are far more telling than any passionate declaration or dramatic gesture. They create a foundation of trust and confidence, making you feel valued without needing to chase, question, or doubt. When you learn to recognize consistency as the true measure of emotional commitment, you stop mistaking chaos for love. You stop tolerating excuses, sporadic attention, or unreliable behavior. You learn to value actions over words, presence over promises, and reliability over charm. Emotional understanding teaches you to observe patterns, not just moments of affection. It empowers you to see who a man truly is, not who he pretends to be in fleeting moments. And when you internalize this lesson, you finally realize that love doesn't have to be complicated, confusing, or painful. You don't chase it because you can see clearly who is committed and who is not. Consistency becomes your compass, guiding you toward the relationships that are emotionally real and helping you walk away from the ones that aren't. One of the biggest mistakes women make in relationships is begging for attention. Let me tell you, when you chase attention, you give your power away. A man who truly cares about you doesn't need to be reminded to notice you. He doesn't need to be pushed, pulled, or coerced into showing you love or respect. Attention should be natural, not forced. When you beg for it, you teach him that your presence is negotiable, that your worth is something he can debate, and that your happiness depends on his validation. Women often fall into this trap because they confuse inconsistency for indifference, or because they tie their self-esteem to a man's recognition. But the truth is, begging for attention is a sign of emotional misalignment. It's a signal that you are seeking love from the wrong source instead of cultivating it from within yourself. Understand this: a man who is emotionally invested will notice you without being prompted. He will check in regularly, call, text, or make plans without you having to chase him. He will see your efforts, your accomplishments, and your struggles, and respond with care and consistency. Attention is not a favor, it is a reflection of genuine interest and love. When you beg for it, you dilute its meaning. You make it transactional. You shift the relationship from a connection built on mutual respect to one fueled by guilt, obligation, or manipulation. Real love flows freely. It doesn't require pleading, coaxing, or convincing. When you demand attention, you are essentially saying that your peace, your validation, and your emotional security depend on someone else's choice to give it. And that is a dangerous place to be. Many women justify begging for attention by saying, I just want to feel loved, or I just want to make sure he cares. But there is a difference between expressing a need for emotional connection and groveling for validation. Expressing your feelings is healthy and necessary in any relationship, but desperation is not. Desperation pushes men away. It triggers resistance instead of closeness. Men are drawn to women who are confident, secure, and self-aware. A woman who respects herself and sets boundaries teaches a man to value her. When you stop begging for attention, you take control of your own emotional state. You stop waiting for him to make you feel good, and you start creating your own happiness. That shift in energy is magnetic. It draws the right kind of man toward you. One who wants to give you attention willingly, consistently, and without being asked. Begging for attention often comes from fear, Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear that you are not enough. But fear is a poor foundation for love. Fear creates codependency, anxiety, and confusion. It blinds you to reality and leads you to accept behavior that isn't acceptable. A man who truly values you doesn't force you to compete for his attention. He doesn't make you question your worth. Instead, he shows up. He shows up consistently. He shows up with clarity. And when you begin to recognize this, you stop chasing. You stop texting repeatedly when he doesn't respond. You stop overanalyzing every action. You stop rearranging your life to fit someone else's inconsistent behavior. You protect your time, your energy, and your heart. When you learn to never beg for attention, you reclaim your power. You demand respect without words. You attract the kind of love that is emotionally healthy and fulfilling. You learn that attention is not a reward to be earned, but a reflection of someone's genuine desire to be with you. You stop settling for crumbs of care and start expecting and receiving the consistent presence you deserve. Understanding this truth transforms how you engage in relationships. You stop chasing love because love that is worth having will find you without begging. And when it does, it feels effortless, natural, and deeply satisfying. Silence is powerful. Too many women overlook it because they are busy looking for words, promises, and explanations. But the truth is, what a man does when he isn't talking often reveals more than anything he says. Silence is not empty. It carries meaning. It shows where a man's priorities lie, what he values, and how emotionally invested he really is. A man who truly cares will find ways to communicate, even in difficult moments. A man who is unsure, indifferent, or emotionally unavailable will retreat into silence. And this silence is not accidental. It is a mirror reflecting his emotional truth. If you pay attention, you can read it, you can feel it. You can see who he really is without him needing to explain. Too often, women mistake silence for mystery, or they convince themselves that it's just a busy schedule. But emotional understanding teaches you that silence speaks volumes. Think about it. A man who disappears for days without reaching out, who doesn't return your messages, or who gives vague answers, is revealing his priorities through his silence. He is showing you where you stand in his life without saying a single word. This is why understanding men emotionally is so important. You learn to read the signals that words can't always communicate. Silence exposes patterns. It reveals intentions. It tells you whether a man is truly present or if he is giving you the illusion of care. Women who don't understand this often fill the silence with overthinking, imagining excuses or chasing after him to get answers. They interpret the quiet as a challenge, something to fix or overcome, when in reality it is simply a reflection of how he feels about the relationship. Learning to observe silence without immediately reacting is a skill that separates women who chase love from those who attract it effortlessly. Emotional truth in silence also shows how a man handles responsibility and accountability. If he makes mistakes, avoids difficult conversations, or ignores problems, his silence is telling you that he may not be ready to handle a mature relationship. On the other hand, a man who is emotionally committed might be quiet for a reason. He is thinking, processing, or planning his next step with care. The difference is consistency and intent. Silence isn't just about being quiet. It's about revealing your heart, your priorities, and your respect for the person you're with. Women who understand this stop reacting to every pause, delay, or lack of immediate attention. They stop trying to fill the gaps with frantic texts, emotional pleas, or unnecessary explanations. Instead, they observe, evaluate, and respond based on what the silence actually communicates. They learn that quiet moments are not empty. They are informative. Many women try to fix silence by overanalyzing it, asking for constant reassurance, or creating drama to break it. But emotional understanding teaches you that this approach only diminishes your power. When you recognize that silence reflects emotional truth, you stop interpreting it as rejection, punishment, or a personal flaw. You stop believing that his lack of words defines your worth. Instead, You see it for what it is, a mirror of his emotional reality. This awareness gives you clarity. It prevents you from chasing love that isn't meant for you and helps you focus on relationships where communication, presence, and emotional consistency are naturally aligned. Silence, when understood, becomes a tool rather than a trap. Learning to read silence without fear or panic transforms the way you approach relationships. You stop overreacting. You stop seeking validation in all the wrong places. You stop trying to convince someone of your worth. And when you master this, you gain peace. You learn that love is not about filling empty space or forcing connection. It's about alignment, presence, and emotional honesty. Silence exposes truth. It separates the genuine from the casual. It shows you who is committed, who is distracted, and who is not willing to invest emotionally. And once you understand this, you'll never chase love again, because you can see clearly who deserves your energy and who doesn't. Self-respect is one of the most powerful forces in any relationship, and yet so many women underestimate it. They think love is about giving themselves away, adjusting to someone else, or constantly trying to earn validation. But here's the truth: a woman who knows her worth, sets boundaries, and refuses to settle for less is magnetic. Men are naturally drawn to confidence, dignity, and self-assurance. When you respect yourself, you create a standard that no one can cross without your permission. You communicate without saying a word that you will not tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional neglect. Self-respect is not about arrogance. It's about clarity. It's about knowing that your love, your attention, and your energy are precious, and that only someone truly committed deserves to receive them. When you cultivate self-respect, chasing love becomes unnecessary because the right people will come to you effortlessly, while the wrong people will naturally drift away. Many women mistake attention, compliments, or occasional affection for love, and they allow their self-respect to slip in pursuit of validation. They text repeatedly, forgive too easily, and bend over backward to fix a man's inconsistencies. But emotional understanding teaches you that this behavior erodes your value in the eyes of the very person you want to attract. A man who respects a woman recognizes her self-worth and responds in kind. He doesn't pressure her, ignore her, or make her question herself. He shows up. He treats her consistently. He matches her energy and respect with his own. That balance is what creates a healthy, strong, and lasting connection. Self-respect sets that standard. It establishes the emotional boundaries that guide men toward clarity in their intentions. A woman who respects herself doesn't beg, doesn't manipulate, and doesn't settle for crumbs. She waits for the love that honors her fully. Self-respect is also about how you manage your own emotions and actions. It's about refusing to compromise your peace for the sake of someone else's approval. It's about walking away from relationships, conversations, and situations that diminish your value. It's about saying no to drama, inconsistency, and disrespect. When a woman carries herself this way, she becomes magnetic because she exudes confidence, security, and inner strength. Men sense it instinctively. They are drawn to women who are grounded, composed, and emotionally independent because it challenges them to be their best selves. Self-respect teaches you to demand reciprocity, not out of manipulation, but out of alignment with your own standards. You no longer chase what you can earn, you wait for what naturally matches your energy and values. Many women struggle with self-respect because they confuse love with dependence. They believe that giving more, tolerating more, or sacrificing more will secure affection. But that mindset only invites imbalance. Emotional understanding flips that script. It teaches you that love flows freely when it is reciprocal. You respect yourself, and in turn, you attract someone who respects you equally. The more you honor yourself, the more the universe aligns circumstances and people to reflect that respect. You stop chasing. You stop questioning your worth. You stop settling for temporary attention. You set a standard so high that only those who are genuinely aligned with your heart and values can step into your life fully. Self-respect is magnetic because it communicates power without aggression, clarity without conflict, and value without demand. It allows you to remain calm in uncertainty, composed in challenge, and confident in love. Men notice. They respond. They show up. And the beauty of it is that when you respect yourself, you don't need to chase love. You simply radiate it, and the right love is drawn to your energy naturally. You stop wasting time on confusion, inconsistency, and people who cannot meet you where you are. Self-respect is the ultimate tool for emotional freedom, and it is the key reason women who understand it will never chase love again. One of the biggest lessons a woman can learn when understanding men emotionally is to observe patterns, not promises. Too often, women get caught up in what a man says rather than what he actually does. A man can say all the right words, make grand promises, and paint a perfect picture of the future. But if his actions don't match his words, those promises mean nothing. Words are easy. Actions take effort, consistency, and intention. Patterns are revealed over time. They are the repeated behaviors, habits, and choices a man makes that show who he truly is. Emotional understanding teaches women to look at the long-term rhythm of a man's behavior, not just the occasional gesture or empty statement. This shift in perspective is life-changing because it allows you to separate fantasy from reality, desire from truth, and hope from actual commitment. Think about it. A man may say, "I'm going to call you every day," but if 3 weeks go by and he doesn't, what does that really tell you? A promise does not create connection. A pattern does. If he is always late, cancels plans, or goes silent when things get tough, that is the reality of his emotional investment. Patterns show priorities. They reveal effort. They expose sincerity. Women who focus solely on promises allow themselves to be manipulated by charm and words. They hope that he means it or he'll change while ignoring the consistent reality in front of them. Observing patterns requires patience and clarity. It requires the discipline to watch how someone behaves over time, in different circumstances, and under pressure. That is how emotional truth is revealed. That is how you stop chasing love and start recognizing it when it is real. Patterns also reveal a man's emotional availability and integrity. Someone may promise love, commitment, or support, but if their repeated behavior shows inconsistency, avoidance, or neglect, their promises are hollow. Patterns cannot be faked over the long term. Over time, a man's choices and habits reveal whether he is genuinely invested or simply playing a role to keep you engaged. Women who understand this stop overvaluing words and start evaluating reality. They stop believing in, "oh, one day," or "someday," and begin seeing what is happening right now. When you focus on patterns, you gain clarity about who deserves your energy and who doesn't. You stop chasing the illusion of love and start responding to the truth of actions. Many women get trapped in the cycle of hope and disappointment because they fixate on promises instead of behavior. They forgive inconsistencies, rationalize excuses, and convince themselves that words will eventually match actions. But emotional understanding teaches you that patterns are the real indicators of commitment. They show whether someone respects your time, values your feelings, and is willing to invest in the relationship consistently. Observing patterns allows you to set boundaries, make informed decisions, and protect your emotional well-being. You learn to trust your intuition and judgment over hope alone. Focusing on patterns, not promises, also empowers you to hold yourself to higher standards. You begin to recognize that you deserve a man whose actions consistently align with his words. You stop tolerating sporadic affection, vague intentions, or broken commitments. You become a woman who sees clearly, acts wisely, and refuses to chase what isn't freely given. Observing patterns is about emotional honesty, seeing the truth of someone's behavior without being clouded by wishful thinking or manipulation. It is a skill that saves you heartache, preserves your self-respect, and guides you to relationships that are genuine, consistent, and fulfilling. Once you master this, you stop wasting time on empty promises. You stop interpreting words as love. You stop chasing someone who is not fully invested. Patterns reveal the truth. They show who is committed, who is inconsistent, and who cannot meet you where you are. And when you understand this, you will never chase love again, because you will see clearly who is worth your attention and who is not. You will wait for love that is aligned, consistent, and emotionally real, and that is the love that will never require chasing. Here's the truth every woman needs to hear. You don't chase love. You attract it. The moment you understand this, your whole perspective on relationships changes. Chasing love comes from fear, from insecurity, from the belief that someone else's validation determines your worth. When you chase, you give your power away. You spend your time, energy, and emotions running after someone who may not even value you, trying to earn attention, affection, or commitment. But attracting love is different. Attracting love comes from confidence, self-respect, and emotional awareness. It comes from knowing your worth, honoring your boundaries, and living your life fully without needing someone else to validate your existence. When you understand men emotionally and focus on attracting rather than chasing, the right relationships will naturally find you, and the wrong ones will naturally fall away. Attraction begins with alignment. When you are aligned with yourself, your values, your goals, your peace, you radiate a magnetic energy that draws the right people toward you. Men can sense authenticity. They can feel confidence. They are drawn to women who are secure, composed, and grounded. A woman who chases love sends signals of desperation, uncertainty, and insecurity, which repel men who are emotionally capable. But a woman who lives in her truth, respects herself, and cultivates her own happiness attracts men who are ready to match her energy. Attraction is not about trying harder, changing yourself, or manipulating someone's attention. It's about embodying your value and letting the right love respond naturally. When you attract love instead of chasing it, you also create healthy boundaries. You no longer tolerate inconsistency, neglect, or emotional games. You understand that love should be reciprocal, not one-sided. You observe patterns of behavior, consistency, and respect, and you align yourself with people who meet those standards. Men who are not ready or willing to show up will drift away because your energy doesn't require them to stay. This is the power of attraction. It naturally filters out what isn't meant for you. You stop wasting time on confusion and uncertainty, and you focus on relationships where emotional alignment, respect, and genuine care are present. Chasing love often comes from fear of being alone or fear that someone else's feelings determine your happiness. But emotional understanding teaches you that the right love is not something you have to force. The right man will seek you, prioritize you, and show his investment through consistent actions. You don't have to beg, plead, or overextend yourself. When you focus on attracting love, you create a sense of inner peace and confidence that makes you untouchable by games, lies, or manipulation. You don't waste your energy on trying to convince someone of your worth because your worth is already known to you. That energy alone makes you magnetic. Attraction also empowers you to remain patient and discerning. You stop settling for temporary attention or sporadic affection. You understand that real love requires effort, emotional availability, and consistency. And you wait for the man who naturally brings those qualities into your life. You no longer chase someone who is not aligned with your heart and values because you know that when the right love arrives, it will feel effortless, respectful, and balanced. Chasing creates exhaustion and doubt. Attracting creates clarity and fulfillment. When you embody this principle, your life changes. You stop reacting to uncertainty. You stop overthinking texts or wondering about intentions. You stop giving your energy to those who cannot match it. Instead, you cultivate yourself, your happiness, and your peace. You focus on your growth, your goals, and your emotional strength. And the most amazing thing is that love, the kind of love you truly deserve, begins to show up naturally. You don't have to chase it. You attract it. Men who are emotionally available, consistent, and committed come into your life because your energy calls them, not because you begged them, chased them, or manipulated them. That is the power of understanding love emotionally. You stop chasing and you start attracting.